GM. 15 points of agreement. GM, guys. Yeah, I think to be honest, um, Trump definitely shit the bed. So clearly, yields and oil going up together created enough panic for him to get off his ass and do something, more or less. As of like earlier, the initial headline was 100% bullshit. However, it's typical Trump of doing something loudly before actually doing something, right? Which is like him like frantically tweeting about something before he actually does it. Like anyone that traded during 2024 would remember Trump tweeting random crap and then obviously would like move the market. What a scam. Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's quite funny because the SPX was actually going to gap down, and Trump knew that. So I think I think someone tipped him off. Some like big fund, which is probably going to blow up, tipped him off. Yeah, I mean, I think markets will probably buy it until later in the day when like something gets bombed or something like that, and then it retraces. So I think the window of like opportunity, the art of the deal, yeah, pretty much. But the window of the opportunity is from now, which is what, like 10 a.m. Eastern time, till about probably 2 or 3 p.m. So like going towards market close. Um, Said pause. I mean, yeah, I mean, the treasury is obviously involved in this, especially when it came to apparently shorting oil, which is quite retarded. Yeah, it's positioning. Yeah, I mean, dude, I wouldn't be surprised if they were like buying right around here. Yeah. No, definitely. I mean, we can go to like just look at yields. That in itself, that move is massive. Subject. Like this shit in yields is not normal at all. Well, I mean, on the downside, technically, it's intervention, if we want to call it that. Like, whenever the Bank of Japan would intervene in their bond market, they'd essentially sell like a crap ton, like a metric shit ton of US dollar to essentially then keep the yield down. Same as that currency as well. Metals should be. I think the charts to watch probably are metals, because they're the most sensitive to the war as of recently. So I think like gold will sniff out if Trump is bullshitting or not. I think when it just comes to like bonds, equities, energy specifically, a ton of leverage just got blown out of the market. So everyone that was long essentially got wiped out on futures. If not, they're around their opening price now, for like the entire last week. Um, Nat gas, I mean, retraced like pretty much the entire move. The energy nat gas as well is like essentially down to the start of the move that they had last week after the Qatar facility got hit. Which is crazy. Keep in mind because there's actually no confirmed CT. Yeah, yeah, 100%. Does anyone have I wonder. I wonder. Coin glass. I don't know if they have RWAs yet. Let's see. Is that actually? Wait, it might be. Is this a token or the actual? I don't even know. Exchanges, hyperliquid, X. Yeah, Brent oil. Let's do value of like 1 million. Yeah, a lot of people got blown out on Brent and CL. 2 mil, 1.5, 111, 3. That's insane. Wait, it's kind of. That's 75. So that would be a while ago. That's nuts. Funny, but nuts. I think we can see. Weird. I guess no one tracks it at the moment. Stats. Didn't they used to have a stats page? P&L analysis. I doubt it's that. That's just okay. That's fucking useless. Brent oil. Let's see. Liquidations. Yeah, they don't have it as well. I can't tell the total amount, but probably tens of millions if I was to guesstimate roughly. Might be largest liquidation event on RWAs so far. And so far, I mean, I've been watching this like a little bit while I've been like coding and whatnot this morning. This is essentially just shorts. So it's pretty obvious whenever you have like these stacked asks above price, which they tend to pull. You like basically have a look within the actual footprint of the candles. And you can measure it in terms of, I mean, this shows the delta, but also shows the CVD and the OY is like relatively flat. But you can see a lot of negative delta as well as the CVD being picked up. So That's essentially like shorts closing at market, and someone on the other side or the other end is essentially buying up price at the moment. So I think someone like a ton of shorts closed here, and then the same people that probably put the asks above price to sort of suspend it, right, prevent volatility upwards for now, is now long for the most part, which is pretty risky unless they're slinging some pretty big size, especially on spot. Oh, I might be able to view it on here. Cool. Yeah, it looks like pretty persistent buying on spot. It looks like they filled that. Feel like it's consistent TWAP, I would say. Interesting. It's probably RGM doll. Probably just an algorithm that's trying to match us as close as possible to the SPX, which gapped up. I've been kind of thinking about it this morning in a way. I don't think I think a retrace of like this whole move would be bearish, actually. It'd be more bullish to not revisit this gap for like a while. Driving it. I wouldn't be surprised because a lot of this is US flow now. Like if I go to these two. I actually don't know how the way. Oh yeah. Custom template. Heck, do I remove this? There we go. Nice. That went to futures and not even spot. Dun, dun, dun. Shit, okay. Well, now we know who bought the low significantly before the tweet. That just looks even more obvious. Like, whenever you see like a massive decline on the CVD, and obviously price holding a level like flat, literally like that, it means one thing is you have a massive limit buyer. Like, it's you can just Google like iceberg buyer, and it's essentially that. That was pre-CME. Yeah. No, Inside is definitely bought out. That's the most obvious shit I've seen in a long time. Seems like third consecutive week where CME open put. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, previous years, CME opens were typically bought, essentially. It's the whole narrative of the market front running, essentially. What's interesting here is we now have pretty minor ask depth on the book, right? We don't really have like significant size yet, at least in my opinion. It'll be predominantly perps, I think. Yeah, and we can see there's clear symmetry between the ask depth increasing, which essentially means more ask liquidity around price, and it's being matched with market buying. So you have a passive seller. It could have been the same buyers from the weekend. That's right before. Yeah. No, literally. The only thing to get like Trump to do something at this point is when the market is down, unironically. Yeah. Not manipulated totally. Yeah, SPX is going up. Well, well, I guess the relief play is in once it closes above. This is essentially how you play it, right? So you have like a slight dip, but you have a large dip on the stochastic RSI. That's essentially momentum is picking up towards buys underneath price, even though you have like a lower low. Into it always has to be in a key level, like a POC of the range, right? Or something like previous lows where it sweeps and closes back up. So that's key, right? And now since we have above the 50 and we're above the 4 hour trend here, this is like massively important. I think if we sustain around this area for today, and then we get like true negotiations towards a resolution that starts like this week, we can then get like a real relief, which likely takes out this high. And we probably target initially, the first, the consolidation before we had that quite sizable puke into like what 60k ish. So this is progression, I guess we can call it. You close some Firecoin. Nice. Yeah, smart to keep your BTC position. Yeah, I mean, I think so. Let me go to my profile. That was a good meme. Where is it? Yeah, so this was basically Trump, I think, saving face, essentially. So he's like, okay, market's gonna shit itself. What do I do, right? I have to tweet some semi incoherent rambling of like, hey, look, I'm doing something. I'm gonna save the world. Then it's obviously as well Iran's gonna save face too, because you have essentially two leaders with like massive egos, right? So both saving face, but what it likely means is a transition towards actually talking, and that's extremely key. The thing to watch out, like the double-edged sword or whatever they call it, with this is Iran may probably use this as an opportunity for bargaining, because they know that now Trump is panicking, especially when it comes to the market, and the global economy is quite literally fucked if we do not get the Strait open by like early April. So they're in a pretty good position from like negotiating, right? So I think that they're gonna utilize that to their advantage, and that's something to keep out on. Like, nothing since then, I think. I don't know if that's true, but I guess. Jointly controls. I don't know. I saw a headline that apparently 22 countries are in some kind of coalition for the Strait, but I don't know about that. Yeah, and this shit. Yeah, I mean, I think it's retarded. Um, to be honest, I don't think. I think based on Friday, we saw the first time that dialogue broke down essentially between the US and Israel, right? So the US wants an exit, essentially. They didn't know how to do that, I think, on Friday. And panic really set in over today, I think, based off Asia's Open, because you essentially saw a ton of sell pressure towards the downside and yields is kept on ripping. Same as energy, like CL or WTI was trading above 100. That was like a huge, alarm bells, right, for the Treasury and the US government. So Trump being Trump, right, he would essentially tweet out something like what he did to essentially bring down and remove all sorts of positioning and leverage involved with potentially tipping markets over. Yeah, I mean, I think that was like the whole move, essentially. But for this week, I think it'll be very interesting to see what Israel's position actually is. Yeah, I mean, Karg Island, the whole assault on that, I don't think will happen. I think it's way too high risk. Like, for one, they haven't demined that place. Two, you have a ton of infrastructure that is designed to launch waves of like anti-ship missiles or anti-ship cruise missiles or something like that that Iran has, which they've been same as a drones. They have like waterbound drones as well, which they essentially launched at a few oil ships already. Like if you see in the pictures, it puts this huge fucking hole in the side of it. So there's like no chance they would send naval vessels in there. Yeah, I mean, they were in Afghanistan for a while, and they didn't really make meaningful progression there. One, because the Taliban knew the land better than them. Two, I think they had backing from like the Russians or something like that. Um, Honestly, I don't think the Kurds would get involved unless the IGCR is crippled, which they're kind of not yet. Doing this with geopolitics and market manipulation. Partially true. I think the most part, end of last week, especially when Israel hit core energy, and that obviously caused retaliation towards Qatar and other infrastructure in the Gulf countries. That was the first point that Trump lost control of the war, right? Which is key, very, very key context. Like, please. I mean, yeah, the whole Afghan war was stupid. I mean, they even left like what 500 million, if not billions, in military equipment in what was it, Syria, and then that like all pretty much got stolen. Insane. If the US fights nothing but basic Geneva type. I don't know. I mean, people also got to realize like the same, like the US isn't as powerful as it was back during like World War II, Vietnam, that era. I think leadership is considerably weaker now. They're burned in Ukraine. I mean, uh, it gets tricky because technically the money that they gave to Ukraine was essentially paid by the taxpayers. Well, I mean, the whole ISIS thing is kind of funny if you look into it because it seems like it was a CIA thing. Yeah, out of circulation. Maybe, maybe. All right, it's time to go through some crypto. Yeah, getting a little pullback. It typically does after like 10 a.m. But also again, like today, the market's I think going to be a little bit quiet, pretty choppy as well, especially in equities. Everyone's going to be looking at headlines. Everyone wants to know: is there really a deal? Is there even like 15 points that Trump says, kind of thing? Um, yeah, that is true, Booker. East Daily looks interesting. I mean, you reset around the 50. This is the uh 1 day 50. This is also previous resistance. How I would play this is probably wait till daily open tomorrow and see how the market is. I believe we also had, yeah, the 200. We quite literally just bounced off the weekly 200 EMA. That's quite clean. Surprising. That is actually somewhat similar to you, which is interesting. And then it's kind of hard to draw a conclusion when it comes to 2022 because we didn't really like test it. We just straight plunged through it, and that was I think that was around Luna and 3AC being liquidated. But I mean, like historically, it's been a really good um, kind of area to buy, I would say. And the confirmation typically comes in the second week. One, two, three, four, five, 6 weeks of sideways and actually not selling off heavily. That's interesting. I mean, if it wasn't for like this one shitty doji candle, it looks okay. I mean, the daily doesn't look too bad, technically speaking, too. However, besides the obvious, which is the wall of wire. I mean, I think even with like good news, crypto has a wall of wire to um, recover from. And in terms of like price, that would be between say 70K ish up to around 80s, or the previous lows. My favorite high beta alt. Wow, Solana's actually been really strong. Pretty like minor dip. We didn't really get that bounce from last week. Man, what a big week. Chevron, oh, market is making trades based on little information. Yep, true. Not much since then. I think usually when we get updates on like news, it's around like 3 p.m. US, like Eastern time, I think. Yeah, I think if gold closes above 4,500, that's pretty good. What are you talking about? Like Peter? The gold maxi, the boomer? Forget his name. I actually do want to try this. We can do gold X USD. Yeah, I mean, like literally since March, BTC's been really strong. Nah, it's uh, what's his name? It's like Peter. It's not Schleif or something. Yeah, yeah, correct. Usually, I mean, gold's always been historically kind of like where you throw your money into. Same as like the Swiss franc when like shit hits the fan. But neither actually played out this time. I mean, gold sold off a ton. One because of the bond market and treasuries selling off really quickly. So that essentially meant the obvious, which is they were pricing in hikes, like a hike for May or June, and then one for end of the year, right? And that in itself pushed metals down a shit ton, especially gold. Um, and then obviously in terms of how much positioning was built up, like a shit ton was built up. Like this entire move, that there's so much positioning built up in this. Like the past like 12 months, literally. So damn, that's the 200. Shit, I should have bought that. I That's annoying. The more you learn. People sell gold when they fear the present. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people are more realizing that the biggest selling point for Bitcoin is uh, it's very easy to move. So it's like digital gold, right? So that's like the easy selling point to most people. But secondly, it's very easy to move. You know, a ledger, Trezor, digital wallets. It's easy. I mean, trying to move like 10 mil in gold, physical gold, would be a real pain in the ass. Um, yeah, trust me, we don't want to see Iran with no electricity because they would hit all the Gulf states, and that'll throw like the whole area into like a full scale war, and that would none of that would be good at all. I mean, at that point, like everything just gets sold for cash. Yeah, they both tag the 200 EMA bounce. That's clean as hell. It's quite textbook as well. Um, fits in your ass. Yeah, true. Comparably, very true. Plus, if the IRS asks, just say you lost it in a boating accident. Anyway, from people trying to offload it. Yeah, there's a whole like theory that the a ton of gold, all the gold price going down was physical sales in the Gulf states being like really high. They're basically swapping it out for Bitcoin. I'm seeing a lot of higher lows on alts so far. If we see one on even like dot, the biggest shitcoin. Okay, not really. Equal lows, but yeah. Seen this on the timeline a ton. Okay, it seems like it continued going up. Hmm. Definitely not the area you would long, since it's not a breakdown. The lower high already wicked into it, so the market trades it as resistance. Definitely a dip buyer. Yeah, dude, fucking dot is shit. Hey, you know what we haven't checked in ages? The little Zcash. Ah, I forgot about that. That was probably one of my best tweets in a long ass time. I was like right around the top. Rejection. A little high. Might be consolidating here for a macro low, but time will tell for that. For now, I wouldn't touch it until trend and structure changes. What are the tokens you guys want me to look at, actually? Like, what are you guys looking at? Hype. Yeah. I mean, I would be a dip buyer on hype, I think, especially around like low 30s. Like when I was looking at it before, kind of doesn't really look ready yet. Okay, that is not hype. Like that was probably the high of the move. But yeah, I mean, anything from like 35, 32 would be a buy. I'm actually surprised it didn't move down as much with the market. I kind of want a long XRP, to be honest. I mean, we got all these. That's like the clearest resistance ever. So like if I was so long, it'd be like around here, down to like 143-ish. Yeah, a lot of alts have the same kind of like consolidation, if not lows. You have like that flat base. And to memory, that typically occurs before you get a really big relief bounce in the market, but may not be the bottom kind of thing. Yeah, like 15, 14 cents would be like massive resistance. Even then, if that's like, that's 57% move. That's crazy. Big cash, like shit cash. Such a weird shot. You're right. Yeah, like, whenever you see this kind of PA, not organic. Session high on. That's positive. Wait, really? Oh yeah, you can briefly see it. Yeah, I mean this looks like this a ton of market buying. Well, not really a ton, but quite a lot. And little effort was, I mean, little impact was made in terms of price. Like 600 bucks ish. Um, that typically just means you got passive selling offloading at a price. That might be why the premium spiked up a lot. Is you have price that kind of like stays here while sells offload, and then Binance like leads the direction. We often saw massive moves off New York hours, and then New York just compresses. Yeah, yeah. I mean, the most important move is usually the open, right? So if it is the open, then like the rest of the morning is just rebalancing, and then there's another move in the afternoon, which is either continuation or a reversal, right? Um, and then when it's not the open, the first hour is just like choppy, and then you get a midday move, and then that usually leads into the close. The more like healthy is actually a pretty boring open. When you have like a gap up or a gap down move, it tends to blow shit out of proportion for like a lot of firms. Yeah, it looks like market buying lost momentum here around 71.5. Market sell, market sell. Yeah, and we got some shorting as well. That's all shorting. Let's check with. Yeah, we'll check energy. What the fuck? Hasn't rebound. So that's okay. Right, yeah. So we're seeing USD start to pick up a bit, yeah. That would be primarily most of the sell pressure here. It's related to the US dollar. Right, so if we get a reversal, and say we get a reversal, right? Bitcoin goes back to yeah, back to like trend, say I don't know, 70K ish or high 70s, and that's it. And and then we get some good news later. That would be a really nice setup, I think, for further relief in the market. Um, yeah, like I marked this area essentially based off the TPOs. So we had previous lows, and also that was the initial high when we tried to recover, and then we obviously sold off. So I think this is a pretty sweet spot, plus essentially an LVN, so low volume node. That's probably single prints as well. That's around like, yeah, 69, 62, little lower than 70. So if we get there. This was the really, really key resistance that we kept rejecting, like, literally constantly last week. Trading into it now, so that's like low 70s. Oh, more like 71-ish. Also fairly thick office layering up. Of, yeah. Alright, so first, I guess, long scalp would be in this red box. And then stops would probably be below, like, these lows. And the only reason I'd take that is if I see price go down here. It's like, you know, and then it kind of consolidates. And you actually see things like bit depth. CVD's moving up with price. So price momentum, actual buying, essentially. And then that's when you could target a continuation move. If that failed as well, then you would essentially want a sweep into here, and then probably a strong recovery off. You wouldn't want to see weakness, really. You can also play it for the short side too, like, you know, if we lost this zone, came down, you would see it bounce into it before going lower. So you could play both sides, really. Hmm, 15 mil. Someone shorted a shit on it, though, that candle into 71. What I've noticed today specifically is really large positions have been constantly targeted. Cash session view up. I have before. They're actually quite useful. I think the current one is session. Doesn't let me click on it, but I think it is session, maybe. No, it looks regular. On training days, especially. Yeah. The best combination with like a session based VWAP is if you have a TWAP bar as well, because you know that they're actually using the session based VWAP ironically to do the barring too. And typically like the preset like stop buying is when price closes like 2 or 3 times below consistently the VWAP, and then it stops buying. Absolute key maps are quite interesting. Some asks. Yeah, I was seeing a passive bar too. Some liquidity moved here specifically. Well, I don't have it set up yet, so you guys can see me set it up. I do delta, and then I do doll, and then do like 3. Same here. We're gonna see how like a low volume this shit is typically. 2, 3. That's so funny. 10, 10. 10. It's like, yeah, right. So many zeros. Yeah, yeah. I mean, so all the spot ETF buying is done by the institutions. So like the institutional desks, which they use completely different books nowadays. So like the only thing useful about Coinbase is really like just where they quote liquidity, because that tends to be pivotal points in the market. Like for instance, the low. And then like the next area would be like 75, 76. Actually, you know what? We're going to create a hyperliquid one. We'll actually see how much. Do they not have like a regular spot? What the fuck is that? I mean, it's units, but. Liquid. Ah, interesting. Volume 64. That's fucking shit. Guessing it's this. Custom. Holy shit, this data is noisy. Alchemist is CB. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's categorized as like Coinbase, but like the orders being executed isn't on like the public order book as far as I know. Plus, Arkham would have a way of tracking the flows in between certain like designated desks and such, and then they label it. We need to do. Look. So order book depth. What the fuck? Exchange. OTC swaps. Yeah, a ton of it's OTC. Why does it have it constantly lit? Maybe they don't have the data. Yeah, even this is the futures. What the fuck? Okay, so this does exist. This doesn't. Now it is. Weird. Alright. Lowest of the we need funding. That's not what I want. Oh, you can. Okay, we can probably have a look at RWA's then as well. That's cool. Data, 24. I guess they have a bit of a delay. It's kind of normal, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, it looks like Hyperliquid is shorting the shit out of it, or traders on it at least. We can actually pair it. Primarily, shorts in these two candles. Long is closing. Probably a long opening. Long is closing again. A lot of shorting to the high. Yeah, top tick longs. Like 8 mil. There's a 10 mil there. 3 mil, 5 mil. Some of these are like legitimate apes that are just YOLOing size into the high. And that bounce would be probably shorts closing. Iran Security Committee spokesman Abraham Razaev says Trump lying or talking nonsense. Rules out talks. Says only force will be understood as strikes and oil price surge shift momentum. Yeah, I mean, basically, Iran knows they have Trump by the balls when it comes to oil prices being high. Talking with Iran's parliament leader. I mean, probably true. I think US is pretty desperate to talk. Israel knew that mediation efforts by several countries were underway to initiate talks between Iran and the US, but was surprised by Trump's statements. Yeah, in other words, they also think it's bullshit. It would win MacArthur, Patton, Nimitz, the 1940s military tactics was. I mean, shit. If they did it 1940s style, like World War II style, right? They would have assembled a massive fucking army. They would have constantly bombed Iran, probably for like days. I mean, just look at like D-Day, how the Allies went in, from like the Mediterranean. Like some of the battles that they fought there were like intense, and they got even more intense. Yeah, and also when it came to casualties back then, it was kind of like it was a whole narrative of why you join the army. It's like serve your country. It's like it's deemed like not a loss. If this does go on longer, I wonder how busy cycles. I think okay. To be honest, I reckon BTC cycles were kind of disrupted when it came to um, ETFs. So like when ETFs were like approved, right? And you had sizable, institutional trading essentially on massive spot exchanges, right? Like Coinbase. I think that disrupted the typical cycle. Like I mean, when we went up to um, what was it, like 125K. Yeah, so essentially like this entire move, a lot of this is spot ETF buying actually. Um, What was interesting is around like the initial highs, there was like a statistic released, which was something like within the PTC cycle, if you go up like a certain amount of days, like it was like 125 or something like that, we essentially start to see the top get formed or put in, and it was pretty accurate when it came to that, which was interesting. But the way like Bitcoin trades now, especially with sometimes, or rather occasionally, I think price gets moved an extra like 10-20% higher or lower than we expect now. So like if we expect it to go to like, I don't know, 60K, if equities like just sell off perpetually, then it go to like 40 kind of thing. Yo, what's up? Have we had any actual stuff yet?
A top person. Don't forget, we've wiped out the leadership phase one, phase two, and largely phase three. But we're dealing with the man who I believe is the most respected and the leader. It's a little tough. We've wiped out everybody. No, not the supreme leader. We don't.
I feel like he's coping, to be honest.
Second supreme leader, the son. Nobody. We have not heard from the son. Every once in a while you see a statement made, but we haven't. We don't know if he's living. But the people that seem to be running it, and they seem that based on really fact, because things they've said have taken place. Mr. President, again, Mr. President, I know you deployed.
Been jointly controlled by me, maybe me, and the Ayatollah, whoever the Ayatollah is, next Ayatollah. Yeah, I've seen, even in Iran, they don't really know who's calling the shots. No one knows really, so it's very like fog, the whole fog of the war. So that might be an element to the discussions. Maybe there are talks, but like no one knows because of the whole fragmented command. Unusual listening to Aga tape. Market will be totally calm, and then you'll suddenly hear a bunch of small liquidations pop up on both sides. That can sometimes be a delay between exchanges reporting liquidation data, because that did get changed like a year ago, I think. When I listen to like Aga tape, I haven't done it in a while, but like it's basically just momentum with price, right? So you're like audibly hearing volume, right, which is showing up in price. It can be pretty wild to utilize that when you're trading like really volatile days. Yeah. I mean, there's definitely periods where like shit doesn't work for Trump, and then he copes big time. Like, I mean, you can basically guarantee he's gonna go on like a tangent probably from today regarding the war in Iran. Grain of salt, yep. Oh yeah, true. There was a PMI earlier today, I think. He doesn't remember names in general. It must be impossible for him to remember. Yeah, probably. I think he just gets told shit, to be honest. Like most politicians, especially presidents, they just kind of get told to do or say something. Ah, right. It was the national activity. I mean, that's kind of not surprising. This can be kind of important. It might be regarding Iran. I don't know. Q4. That'll be interesting. Consensus 2%. March. Yeah, PMI. The flash PMIs will be very important, and the manufacturing and the services, because that'll be kind of like a hint of what the start of the Iran War may have done. Initial dropless, continuing. These two will potentially help when it comes to yields. Like if we see higher jobless clans, yields will probably come back down lower even more. Continuing is very important because if you see continuing growing with like more jobless claims being lodged, you essentially have a less tight labor market, which is deemably better for cutting. And this would be like next week. Chicago PMI massive. Jolts. February. Pretty massive end to this month. Alright, where is my pub chart? This one. So it's like the lower end now. This is pretty much where you would want to see some kind of bullish price action if it's like the initial area to long. I would say those were actually longs that got stopped out. Probably from these two candles here. 11 mil, 16, 8. Yeah, back to session open. Let's have a look at futures. Futures is in the trend. It'll face resistance though because RSI is not above 50. Typically means there's resistance above. Monthly open as well. The NASDAQ. Wasn't really signal though, pretty choppy. Yeah, gold chopping. Nice rebound in bonds and treasuries. VIX futures being lower in the afternoon would be better for the close. For at least a not shit close, I think. Holy shit, hearts up a lot. Marathon. Wow, it's minus sort of shit, huh? Yeah. I mean, MicroStrategy is still in a technical bear market. Earnings in May. Interesting. I feel like they'll get probably the revenue, but earnings maybe not. Oh yeah. I don't look at this chart nearly as much as I should, but IBIT's correlation is very high when it comes to the spot price of Bitcoin, obviously. I mean, the range is literally like a what, almost a 1-to-1 in terms of 2024. Um, yeah, it's nice because we swept that, and obviously that correlated quite nicely to the Bitcoin bounce. I mean, we can literally overlay it. Oh, yeah. Yes. Yeah, so if you take spectrum participants, retail, MMs, firms, ETFs, how do you think? How do you rank them in power to move the market? Okay, in terms of, I think who controls liquidity and has the most impact on liquidity, that would be firms. Retail MMs the most. ETFs, I think, have most impact when it comes to discovery. So that's when like price moves the most. True. I mean, whoever does the the OTC for that would be probably making quite a lot. Yeah, I mean, even then, like the only time they can get filled, and a lot of people misunderstand this. Like, um, the most recent was 74, right? And the only time they can actually get filled for that size is where the market's buying a ton, or rather, actually selling a ton. Right? So like whenever the supply, they're typically the one big buyer that is not only leading the market but buying through all that supply. And we can typically see it actually on Binance Spot. Yeah, like all this supply that got filled on like way up to 76. That would have been correlated to MicroStrategy buying. And it's like every single time you see like shit ton of supply like this, and price just grinds straight through it and then stops, it's more than likely related to Sailor and like other ETFs that are buying at the same time. liquidations. Okay. I guess 70 mil was liquidated on Brent oil. 33. So that's like 103 mil. That's massive. Feels kind of bearish overall if sailors driven the last two bumps. Yeah, I mean, I think like the bearish part is the fact the market is using Sailor as an exit and isn't able to sustain a rally just beyond him, right? I mean, we'll just go back to we'll go here and clean chart. So if we go to it on like a high time frame, right? This is like, you know, your primary consolidation, right? And then you had your markup, right? And then you had the high low. And then obviously we pushed up, right? But then we just chopped. And this is where like momentum started to wane and die. And typically you get your correction back down, and then you get your bearish consolidation, right? Which is where you're unable to sustain momentum to the upside. And then typically you get that quiet bear market sell-off, which is quite aggressive. And that's what we've had, right? And when it came to like this move as well, like these two pumps, both times they've been used as exit liquidity. So it's like, you know, pretty bear market. And the only times you can like actually play moves up in this kind of dynamic is when there's a massive narrative. Like anyone that traded in 2019 would know like the Z pump, which was essentially just some random Z tweet. And I mean, the market at that point had gone into a downtrend essentially, right? So you had like the lower high here, which rejected this consolidation. And then like obviously other issues in macro and whatnot led to like this sell off from I think it was 10k to like 8k. And then we had like this bear trap, and then the Z candle is basically this, like some random China tweet came and it squeezed all the shorts at the time. It was insane. But obviously it got like retraced because dynamically there weren't long-term buyers at that point in time. I kind of see a pretty similar setup, to be honest, is if there's like a confirmed end to the war, we'll probably get some like massive candle up, but it's likely to bleed back down. Large scale IDF announces the end of a large scale strike campaign into Iran, the stated blah blah blah. Okay, that's good. That typically is IDF saying they're probably paving way to an exit to the war. My guess, because the US is like not not going to back them anymore in their campaigns, and they know if they don't have the US, especially now with their defense is very low, they'd be fucked. Which makes me think the headlines from now, from this point onwards, are really important. Yeah, plus oil continues to sell off. I think oil market's buying that there's an exit coming to the war. Like 65%. Yeah, mostly rebalancing. Other than energy, I can't really see anything out of what we've seen already, to be honest. Shit. Still mostly reversion trades. Very interesting. Yeah. I think in a couple days, pretty much. Silver. Wait, really? I mean, commodities as a whole, I think, yeah, they kind of did. Because, like, we would have, like, the DWF kind of, like, scam where it just goes up only. And then, out of nowhere, just crashes. And then it, like, chops around and then just starts bleeding. So, I mean, you could call that the DWF pattern. Nice, a spoofy. I'm personally watching all this close on low time frame. I guess I might take a long scalp. But I only will if I see like a sweep and failure to auction lower plus demand. Silver tends to put in a high before gold. Now you mention it, that's probably true because silver's kind of like the Solana of like commodities. It's the high beta asset which retail loves. I also wonder, given Trump's statements, if he made it to try strong arm Iran into talking before the whole 48-hour deadline expires, which I think is in like 6 hours or something like that. The constant rejection of 100 looks good for risk. All we need is that and the war, and then we can long our longs. I always look at price reaction initially. It's like the best, uh, the best ones are like this. Like typically you see a ton of positioning get blown out. You see like a lot of delta in the candle, like 35 mils a lot, and OI tanked. That means a lot of people, yeah, essentially got blown out, right? And what you typically get is like a doji candle like that. And then you, like with the initial candle down, you can usually just draw like a line like that. And what's cool is more often it's respected, which is quite nice. So you can call that essentially just like a failed auction lower. Yeah, you made today's tweet 36 hours. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of back channeling from Europeans to Trump, basically to like to tell him to shut the fuck up, probably. Because if desalination plants and energy plants get hit in the Gulf states, the whole region's like fucked for a long time, well beyond the priced like 1 month war of essentially March to April. Yeah, so anyway, after you see that failed auction below, right? You obviously see, price bounce, and where you enter is essentially around like this zone. And you obviously want to see really, really strong price reactions too, so you kind of have to like observe it. So like, the wick into demand and then it closed higher, and it does that multiple times, like these 3 candles that did it. Yeah, and then like here's another one. You have like a flat base. You can literally draw a line. You get the same thing. Like candle pushes through it, fails the auction lower, traps like a shit ton of people, and then every single time, they get squeezed. And essentially, you would enter in this candle, and you'd have like pretty tight stop loss. And then for higher time frame, like higher or cleaner lows, it's always quite similar. Like, you know, consolidation, ton of lows around the same area. And then you always have like a push, like this push down, it failed, closed back above. And then really you can enter in like this general area with like stops below. Tends to repeat a lot. But the key is entering after the failed auction law. Yeah, because you don't want to you don't want to enter into like slow bleed and you haven't seen that reaction yet because you're just gonna get stopped out pretty much. And then when it comes to like taking profit, it's essentially one way is if you can't really be like fucking waiting around, it's that impulse candle. Otherwise, pretty similar from impulse candle. You'll see the same, which is failed auction higher, and then we start grinding back lower. You basically just exit here. Yeah, always slow bleeding. Yeah. Well, it's below the candle where I was interested. Like this wick below that. Yeah. I wouldn't touch it. Yeah, VWAPs around 69, 800-ish, call it. Still think this is better odds for a bounce. If we got that. Ooh. Explosions reported at US bases in Kuwait. RTV reported that. Yes, attempted to start negotiations. That would be today. Remain unchanged. Says friendly countries originally sent messages showing the US wants to talk to stop the war, but Iran did not reply. Iran did, yeah. They've been ghosted by Iran. That's funny. So Iran ghosted the US and then bombed a US base. That's gonna be the ultimate, like, fuck you, essentially. Wow. Well, that would be the headline probably in price, that little bit. Yeah, otherwise, do you guys have any questions or like tickers, like charts, alts, whatever you want me to look at before I probably wrap it up and get some sleep? Because if shit hits the fan later still, I'll probably want to have a bit of sleep. Yeah, I love you, bro. Yeah, I'm probably gonna sleep in a minute anyway. Yeah, I'll um, I'll probably stream the open tomorrow as well, or around about. I'll try to do it like every open this week, so we get some good coverage and trade it a little bit. Define and OVB divergences. I mean, OBV is more high time frame, but I mean, I kind of see OBV similarly to like RSI, where you trade divergences. One of the cool things with OBV is it can lead when it comes to crypto, like when Bitcoin has, when like the OBV leads price and Bitcoin is consolidating at like a resistance, that can typically be like a really nice bullish signal, which is pretty cool. CVDs I tend to trade with general like market positioning. So it's like I use CVD with OI a ton and like footprint delta, so then I can see what the market's positioning, like how they're positioning. And then that gives me general consensus to knowing if the market is preparing for like continuation or if the market's wrong. And if the market's wrong, that's also like a nice opportunity, especially if it's around like a key zone, which probability wise, like if it's market demand, right? And you see a ton of people shorting into the low, but they're not making any progress. Kind of like what I tweeted, I think, yesterday. That tends to be a really nice like long scalp. Um, yeah, yeah, the spoofs. I mean, I would say there's been less spoofing today than usual, actually. Yeah, it's a really good tool to see when there's absorption because typically like the CBD will grind lower, but price will be like flat or trending higher, and that's usually absorption around a low. And then on highs, it's like the same, which is like CBD increases, but price is obviously like weakening. Yeah, yeah. Passive flows will like limit buying, limit selling. All right. I think I will wrap it up for tonight, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow for the next stream around about the same time.